Hey guys, this is Chris Roby here. Yeah, so basically we did a podcast yesterday. The episode didn't work, so I think I'm just gonna try to see if I can recap kind of what me and Chris had talked about, NFL wise. Basically we covered Aaron Rodgers, he's gonna be going to the Broncos possibly. They hired the offensive coordinator for Green Bay, which Aaron, obviously put his blessing on him to be the coach for anyone, really. And then, not only that, but, we talked about Brady retiring. I had said, well, I think it could be, because even Gronk was asked, like, right after that loss, or pretty close, Gronk was asked if he was going to retire. And it's like, well, if you just ask someone right now when their body's tired and they just took a blowing loss, they're going to be more likely to say, yeah, dude, like, I don't really feel like playing football again. But, when it comes around to it and you start getting that itch to come back and play some football, we've seen it with Favre a few times. He left, came back, left, and then basically had to go to a different team. When he came back, I think it was the third time or second time. But, we've seen it before. And it's one of those things that you just always have to expect that, somebody's going to try to pull that because, these guys only have one life, one opportunity to play football. So, I think a lot of them, some people side more on protecting your body and living a longer, healthy life, which is good. I mean, that's fair too. But, like, when you're Brady or you're Gronk, like, if you're going to have effects from playing a football game, like, there's always that possibility it could get worse. But most likely, if you're going to have effects for the rest of your life, it's going to happen from the long time you've already played. You know what I mean? It's probably too little too late if you were going to get out of football. So, that's just kind of my opinion or my guess on it. But, it's one of those things where if you're looking at, Brady and that whole situation, it also, one of the things that I thought of is that it makes me feel like he maybe was upset with Arians, the way Arians was treating Antonio Brown, looking for any reason to get rid of him. Brady was also probably felt offended at Antonio Brown himself because he had put his neck out for him, and then Antonio Brown acted like a doofus. But I guess what I'm saying is, what is the relationship between Arians and Brady? Like, is Brady wanting to make Arians sweat a little bit and say he's retiring? Now it's been reported by Adam Schefter and I think Ian Rappaport that Brady is retiring, but his dad has even been on a radio show and I guess said nothing's official yet. Like, what the heck's going on? But, I think it's fair to say that he probably is done. I would have liked to see Brady keep his word and at least play as long as he said he was playing. But, none of us are perfect, so I'm not going to judge him. But I'm just saying, I'm going to miss the guy. He brought a real pro approach to football. Like, he gave everything he had. He knew he could be the best, and he for much of his career was the best. I don't know if he is anymore. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, when he's playing good, he's way better. There's guys, Rodgers, I wouldn't say is better because he hasn't proven that. But, on the Broncos, there's that possibility that Rodgers is going to be better. But the thing, especially with Rodgers, if he goes to the AFC, who do you have left in the NFC if Brady retires? So it's one of those things I would rather see Brady keep playing for selfish reasons because I want good entertainment, But, it's really up to him in the end. So, it's going to come down to Brady just doing what he wants to do. I think he says it's for his family, but, they can figure out a way for him to keep playing if that's what he decides to do. I'm sure, families have a way of working that type of stuff out most of the time. And like I've heard somebody say on a podcast, they were saying, basically that it's not fair. It's just really not fair because you're looking at Brady and you're looking at the fact that he is the best person in the world at what he does. And then you're going to tell him, even though he'll have the rest of his life after 45 with you as a family, you're telling him you have to retire. And I understand his wife being like, I can't stand to see you get hit. Because that makes sense. But at the same time, if you're the best at something like this guy was saying on this podcast, shouldn't you be allowed to do that? And you're going to have all this time later with your family? Now, the thing with Brady is usually he gets the ball out so fast he's not getting sacked a lot. Now, this last game that he played in the NFL, where they had that comeback and then the Rams, Stafford threw that bomb, all the way down the field. They kicked a field goal. They had come up all the way from 24-3 or something, to where they were going to go to overtime at least and have a chance to win. I believe that's how it went. Except Stafford threw that bomb and they got the field goal. But, Brady has no shame. If he retires right now, it was the defense, I feel like, that let them down because he caught them up. They still had an opportunity to win that game. He could have possibly went to his 11th Super Bowl, depending on how that next game went. And, it's just crazy. He could have won maybe 8 Super Bowls. I think the more he's thinking about it, he's just realizing, hey, I need to probably call it quits. Because it's sad. It is sad. But, if that's what he feels like he needs to do, then I think people have to respect it, Trying to think of what, I guess Antonio Brown says he wants to play on the Ravens. That was something that Chris brought up, I believe, in the episode that we lost. Which is cool in a way, but it's also dude, it's at some point, Antonio Brown's got to realize that, he messed his career up. He's only going to have so many opportunities. And, you look at a guy like Antonio Brown, he was under a lot of controversy, or not Antonio Brown. You look at Odell Beckham Jr. He was, under a lot of scrutiny coming out of Cleveland, but he seems to have turned his career around, and you hoped Antonio Brown would do that. They got a Super Bowl win last year, but it's just crazy. It really is when you look at all these different things. The Bills Kansas City game, I know I keep talking about that a lot, but that was just insane. I'm really happy with the way that game went. People wished that was the AFC Championship. I think a lot of people probably wish that, the Bills played in the NFC so it could be a Super Bowl or something, but I mean, that would be ideal, I feel like. One of the things that they're talking about right now is if Rodgers goes to the Broncos and then they finally get, or I say they, but all of us as fans, if we finally get the Bills, the Packers versus the Rodgers versus Mahomes battle, basically, because Rodgers would be on the Broncos, so he'd have to play Mahomes twice a year. And that would be sick, because every time that they've had to play the Packers, the Chiefs have, Rodgers has been out of the game somehow. So that would be amazing. Let me see. I'm trying to remember what else we might have talked about. I started playing Duke Nukem Forever, that old 360 game. It was on sale. I got it on my Xbox Series S. And, oh man, that game's actually pretty cool in a sense, because it's so different from games these days. It's kind of refreshing because, because some of those things like the Mr. Macho Man, the, what do you call it? Like the, action hero, Bruce Willis character, like they're just not in games anymore, and they do this so over the top that it's like hilarious. Oh man, it's pretty funny. It's kind of a cool game. I'm enjoying it so far. And I realize some of that they can't do anymore because it's offensive to women, and I understand that, and I get that. I heard an interview with that guy that does the voice one time, and he seemed like a really cool dude. He really did. I don't know if he's still doing games. I think he did all the games for Duke Nukem. Anyway, let me see here. Trying to think. I could do that. I'll probably do my food segment on here too. Because I was planning on doing that on the Joe Scratchy Show, but I could put it on here at the end of this sports, video games, and more episode too. Yeah, dude, so some coaches were hired. These coaches were like defensive coordinators, basically. Well, one of them was hired. It's the Bears' new coach. Can't remember what his name is. But yeah, basically he was hired, and they hired, I think their new general manager is supposed to be a pretty good one, or they're expecting it to be. And same with the Broncos head coach, the OC from Green Bay. He's supposed to be a smart, really good football up and coming guy. So hopefully that works out for us Broncos. And then, let me see here. I'm trying to think of who else was. Vic Fangio. Our old, what's his name? Coach, from the Broncos. Yeah, he basically is going to be matching up possibly with, although he's a defensive coordinator, so it won't be too much like that. But the Jaguars quarterback, he might be taking that Jaguars job. I guess he was having an interview there, but I don't know who else they've interviewed, so I don't know if he'll get the job. But I just thought that was kind of interesting. Wouldn't you bring in a offensive coordinator, possibly even, the Bears bringing an offensive coach or coordinator or whatever too there, because you got Justin Fields. So, and then Brian Flores, I don't think he's gotten a job yet. Pretty sure the Giants just announced their head coach. Not sure who that guy was, but yeah, basically there's been some action with that, and then it's been, I can't wait till free agency, especially, what's going to happen with Russell Wilson. Is Rodgers, is he going to change teams? That's going to be really epic. Yeah, so, I just think it's been a really interesting year, kind of brings me down some that Brady, possibly is retiring. But, that's just part of what happens with the NFL. You just kind of have to accept that, I guess, as a fan, that obviously people have their own rights to walk away or stay, whatever they want to do. There's been people that looked like studs that came in the NFL and then retired like after a year. I know of one guy at least that did that. I think he played on the Niners. But yeah, and then there's been a lot of talk about Sean McVay. Sean McVay, as what's his face says on the Undisputed podcast. Kind of funny. But anyway, I guess he's never beat Shanahan. So yeah, it's 6. He's like 0-6, I guess, against Shanahan. So it's going to be interesting to see, kind of how that all turns out. And it really could be the Rams' year. It might be. It could be the Chiefs' year again too, though, which I'm thinking is most likely. But I guess we'll see. But yeah, one of these years, Shanahan has to probably win a Super Bowl because he keeps getting close, if not there. He did get there that one year. So is he going to be the guy to, make one of the quarterbacks they have their work? Both those guys got there on his watch, I guess. It's not like some other coach was there with them, but, it seems like Garoppolo, he's going to have to move somewhere. I think Green Bay makes sense, because, who's going to replace Rodgers? You're not going to throw Love out there, but that's if Rodgers leaves. And, I think Brady to the 49ers made sense. That was thrown out there, but, once again, he'd have to be traded, what was his name? Sean Payton. He's been in the news a lot. Talk about him possibly hanging out and then maybe taking the Cowboys job at one point. Some people think he would be good in media, but does he decide he's too comfy in media and not go back into coaching? I mean, he's still got 3 years left on his current deal with the Saints. So, yeah, I mean, there's just a whole lot of really interesting storylines that me and Chris covered on the podcast that got lost. It had a glitch on it. I could not get the recording, unfortunately. But I think I covered most, if not all, of the stuff that we had talked about. And it's going to be interesting to see, do the Browns make a move on Baker? Do they somehow trade him or get rid of him? Maybe he would be the Packers quarterback. I mean, there's just a lot of really interesting stuff. Doug Peterson, he never got a coaching job, it appears. Bieniemy from Kansas City, he didn't get a job. So it's just, I mean, there's a lot of really interesting stuff to talk about, but I'm not excited about it because I feel like I'm so emotionally upset that Brady's leaving, because that's a big part of the NFL. It really is. I mean, Brady in himself is a big brand and adds a lot to the NFL, so it's not going to be exactly the same without him. I mean, even when Peyton Manning, sure, other people came in and, I mean, the transition went okay, but, I mean, even when Peyton Manning retired, you're still losing a part of what was huge in the NFL for so long. I mean, look at the Saints. They were not the same without Breeze. They just weren't. Now, could Manning have kept going for longer? No. I mean, I think he needed to be honest with himself and be like, yo, I mean, a change has to happen here because I just making myself look worse. My legacy, I mean, 1 year's one thing, but if you keep doing it, you're kind of hurting your legacy a little bit. But we saw Breeze dropped out in the playoffs last year. He didn't look like himself. It was sad. I mean, I wouldn't have wanted to see another year of him suffering like that, not being able to play. So I mean, there's a certain time, but see, Brady's not at that point. Brady can still play. He's in the MVP race. So I would rather see that you played as much as you could, got as much out of it as you could, did as much as you could, before you step away. I mean, but it's his life, his decisions, Ben Roethlisberger, it was hard watching him. He needed to walk away. So, I mean, there comes a time, where these guys have to walk away, and it's sad. I mean, it is. Especially when you've seen these guys play for years, and they were a big part of you possibly growing up watching football. For me, they were. So it's just one of those things that's, I mean, it is sad, and you wish the best for them outside of football and that they have success and all that, but you also selfishly as a fan of the NFL want to keep watching them. So, I'm just hoping Brady comes back. Gronk, if he's not going to get hurt and he's still able to play, it'd be cool to see him. So I guess we'll just see how it goes, but this is where we sit. So thanks everybody for listening.